Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Vintage Library mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. So this is a tutorial series, and if you're just tuning in, you might want to check out the previous videos to catch up if you are planning on following along. Also, in the description box below, I have links to all of the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website. So if you do want to follow along, go ahead and check out those links, click on those, and you can purchase all of your supplies. In today's video, we're going to begin decorating page 3, starting with the front side. So I have the base of my page front, and I have 2 flaps here to start. Both of these flaps are 5.5 by 6 inches. On the first one, on the 6-inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side. And on the second flap, I'm going to score at 6 inches on the left-hand side at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to fold on the score line on both of these flaps and burnish these folds. Now I'm going to bring my page in, and using my centering ruler, I'm going to mark both of my flaps in the center. So I'm going to take this using my centering ruler. This is going to be at 2 3/4 inches from the center. And if you're using a regular ruler, it is going to be 1 5/8 of an inch from each top and bottom edge. We'll do the same thing over here on this side, measuring 2 3/4 and 2 3/4. Taking the flap with the tab on the right-hand side, I'm going to add my adhesive on this 1/2 inch tab section. And then I'm going to place this on the right side of the page so that that score line is lined up with the edge of the page. Then I'll use my bone folder to burnish this down. Next, I'm going to take the second flap and add my adhesive to the back of my 1/2 inch tab section here. And then I'm going to place it on the left-hand side of the page so that the score line is lined up with the edge of the page. And before I burnish this down, I want to make sure that the top and the bottom edges of both flaps are lined up straight, and then I'll go ahead and burnish this down. Next, I have 2 more pieces. These both measure 4 3/4 by 5.5. I'm going to take the first piece on the 4 3/4 inch side. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side. On the second piece, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. Then I'm going to take both of these, fold them on my score lines, and use my bone folder to burnish these folds nice and flat. Starting with the flap that has the 1/2 inch tab on the left-hand side, I'm going to add my adhesive. And then I'm going to add this to the flap on the right. Now I want to make sure that this lines up top and bottom and is to the right of that score line so that this will fold close. If you have it too far over past the score line or too close to the score line, this flap will not fold in very smoothly, so you want to make sure that you have it in the proper place before you burnish it down. Then I'm going to take the second flap and add my adhesive here to this 1/2" tab section on the back. And I'm going to apply this one on the left-hand side in the same manner as the one on the right, making sure that the top and bottom edges are lined up straight and that this is to the right of the score line so that this flap will fold nice and smoothly. Next, I have a piece that measures 1.5 by 8 1/4. This is going to be a belly band for my page, so I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm going to put my decorative paper and then I will adhere that down. So for now, I'm just going to set it there. Then I have a piece that measures 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. We're going to take this on the 8 1/2" side. I'm going to score this at 1.5 inches. I'm going to fold this over and burnish. Then I'm going to flip this down and write my note to myself to make this into a pocket on my photo mat. So now I have my photo mat and my belly band. I'm going to take my washi tape and fasten this to the page for now, and we will adhere this down later. Next, I'm going to fold over the left-hand page first, then my right-hand page second, and we're going to make a closure. So I've got one piece that measures 4 1/2 by 1 1/4. On the 4 1/2" side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side and fold on my score line. Then I have a piece that measures 3 1/2 by 1 1/4. On the 3 1/2" side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side and fold on my score line. Now I'm going to take these pieces and place them on my upper flaps so that they are centered. So this is going to be at the 5/8 of an inch mark. Or if you're going with a regular ruler, 2 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to take the longer of the two pieces, add my adhesive, and apply it here to the left-hand side of the page, making sure that everything is straight here, that this score line for the band is straight on the edge of that flap. Then I'm going to take my smaller piece, add my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab, and apply it here to the center of the page, making sure that it's straight here, but also in line with the band on the left-hand side of the page. Then I'll go ahead and burnish these down. I've got one more piece that measures 3/4 by 2.5, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with this one. Uh-oh, I might have cut this too short. Looks like I did. So we're going to see if we can still make this work. I think I can make this work. It'll just be in here. It'll be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've done with my previous pieces. I'm going to mark on my little piece where the edges are of my little band closure. And then I'm going to come in here and score this just past those marks. And then I'm going to fold those over. And when this is here, I still have room for my piece to slide into. So now I'm going to take this and add my adhesive here to my back side of my pieces. And I'm going to place this about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Adhere that down. And then I'm going to use my bone folder on the back side to adhere this. So now I have my little closure piece, and this will slide right in there. Now, if you want to, you can make this larger or longer. I might actually end up extending it with something else, a piece of decorative paper maybe, I'm not sure, if this won't stay closed. You can also just cut this off now and put a new piece on. If you do, I would make this piece. So I would probably want it to stick out to about 5. So this piece would be about 5.5 inches long. So that would be my ideal solution, just to cut this at 5.5 inches. But for now, I'm going to leave this how it is. So this is the build for the front of the page, and then we'll add our decorative element on the inside. For the inside, we're going to take one piece that's 3 3/4 by 8 1/4. On the 3 3/4 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. And I'm going to miter those corners and fold on that score line. And then burnish this down with my bone folder. And then I'm going to adhere this here to the left edge of my page as a large flap that I can place more photos on. So with my adhesive on the back side, I want to make sure that I have my page in the correct orientation first, placing that score line right on the edge, lining that up and burnishing it down. So the page will go this way. My flap is on the left-hand side, and this will be the part that's attached to the hinge. So now we have the front and inside done. We're going to move on to the back side of page 3, starting with the inside. We need to cut one piece to 6 inches by 9.5 inches. Then on the 6 inch or on the 9.5 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch and 5 inches. Folding first backward on that 1/2 inch tab. And then I'm going to fold this one the opposite direction. Now on my page, I'm going to place this down here at the bottom of the page. So I'm going to add my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab section on this back. And then I'm going to place this on the bottom in the center. Now I'm just going to eye this, but if you want to measure 1/8 inch over from the sides, you can do that. So then when this is on the page, I'm actually going to put a pocket here and I'll have a photo mat. This will flip up, room for 2 photos. So we'll make the photo mat for the pocket next. I have one photo mat measuring 5 inches by 6.5 inches. So that will tuck here into this when it becomes a pocket. For now, I'm just going to add a piece of tape to keep that inside. Next, we're going to move on to the back side of page 3. The first piece we'll cut is 2.5 inches by 8.25 inches. On the 2.5 inch side, we're going to score 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. I'm going to miter these corners and then fold on that score line and burnish. And then I'm going to cut a piece that's 6 inches by 8.25 inches. On the 6 inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. On the right hand side, going to miter these corners and then fold on this score line. So now I'm going to bring my page in, adding adhesive to the smaller flap first. So adhesive on the back 1/2 inch tab section. And then I'm going to adhere this piece to the left side of the page so that the score line lines up with the edge of the page. Then I'm going to add my adhesive to the 1/2 inch tab on the back of this larger flap. And then I'm going to be adhering this to the right side of the page so that that score line lines up with the edge of the page, and making sure that the flaps are straight at the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to open up both of these flaps. I have two pieces that measure 3 inches by 5 inches. On the first one, on the 3-inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the top. On the second one, I'm going to score on the 3-inch side from the bottom at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to fold on these score lines and burnish these folds. Next, I'm going to use my centering ruler and I'm going to mark 2.5 inches from the center, which is where I'm going to be placing my flaps. So I'm going to apply my adhesive to the first piece, placing this one at the bottom of the page so that the score line lines up with the edge of the page, and then I'll burnish this down. Then I'm going to add my adhesive to my second flap, and I'll add this one to the top in the center of the page and lining up that score line with the edge of the page at the top. For the inside, I've got 2 photo mats that measure 4¼ by 7 inches. And then I've got one that measures 3¼ by 6 3/4. You can make photo mats any size you want to place in here. These are going to hold those photo mats in, and then this flap will close like this. So this is all for page 3. For the front of page 4, we're first going to be cutting one piece that measures 6 3/4 by 6.5. Now on the 6 3/4 inch side, we're going to be scoring this at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side of the page. Then we're going to fold on that score line and burnish. Next, I'm going to use my centering ruler to place this on the center of the page on the left-hand side. So it's going to be at 3¼ inches. Or if you are using a regular ruler, you need to measure up 7/8 of an inch from each side of the page. So I'm going to add my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab section. And then I would adhere this so that the score line is lined up with the edge of the page on the left-hand side. Next, I have a piece that measures 5 inches by 6.5 inches. On the 5-inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the right. Then I'm going to fold and burnish on this score line. And on this side, I'm going to adhere my tab to the right-hand side of the page. You can mark the center if you want, but I'm going to use this flap to line up my page. So everything will be lined up even there. And even with the side of the page here. Now this flap is going to be underneath, so we don't have to worry about this flap closing into this one. And since this one's shorter, it will be just fine. There won't be any issues. So now we have those two flaps on the page. We're going to build up this section. First, I need a piece that measures 4 3/4 by 4 1/2. On the 4 3/4 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to come over here and score at 4 1/8 and 4 1/4. Now I'm going to fold on all of these score lines and burnish. So just take your time with these smaller folds. It's actually easier if you do the outer score line first and then score the second one than the way I did it. So it's a little bit easier. So if you start with the outer fold, and then that second fold, we now have a piece that has those two tabs, but it also has an 1/8 inch gusset. So there's some room for expansion. On my page, I'm going to measure up from the bottom edge of my flap at 1 inch. And then, can't see my mark. I need to mark that a little bit better. There it is. Then I am going to draw a line right across my flap. Next, I'm going to bring my piece in and I'm going to mark the center. So this is going to be at 1 3/4 of an inch from the center. Or if you are marking from the edges, you're going to go 1 3/8 of an inch. So next, I'm going to add my adhesive to both of my tabs. If you don't feel comfortable doing both at once, just apply adhesive to one and then come back and apply adhesive to the second one after we get the first one in place. So I've got my adhesive. I'm going to place this down on my line. So it's just like this. You see the first side, it's lined up here and with that mark over here. So it's lined up perfectly there. And now I'm going to line up this side. Once I have my edge lined up, I can go ahead and flatten this out completely. Just make sure it doesn't go past that mark. Burnish that down. And then I will take my whole piece and shift it up so it's got that 1/8 inch pop up here so that it's basically like an envelope or a pocket. Next, I have 2 pieces that measure 3.5 by 5 3/4. On one of them, on the 5 3/4 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1 1/4 inches on the top. On the second one, I'm going to score at 1 1/4 inch on the bottom. Then I'm going to fold on these score lines and burnish. Now I'm going to take my pieces and slide them in my pocket here and here. Now, if your pieces are a little bit too wide, if your pocket when you scored it and folded it was a little bit too narrow, just pull these out and just trim a little tiny bit off of them. Now we have these here, and once we decorate these and there's more photo paper or more decorative paper or photos on here, we still have room. That's why we have that 1/8 of an inch that we left. I'm going to place a closure on here, similar to the previous closures that I've made with a band. So I have my first piece, it's cut to 1 1/4 by 3.5. On the 1 1/4 or on the 3.5 inch side, I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch on the bottom. Fold on that score line. This is going to be for the bottom piece here. We've got another 1 1/4 by 3.5 inch piece. On the 3.5 inch side, I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch on the top. And this one is going to go here. There is that overlap. I have my small piece. We're going to create our closure. So 3/4 of an inch by 2.5 inches. So if you remember how we did this before, I'm going to just place this here and mark where the edges of that band are. Then I'll take my scoring tool and score just past those lines on the outer edges so that I have a little bit of extra room. Folding that over and then making sure that it will slide down on the band. So I'm going to take my centering ruler and I'm adding my adhesive to the 1/2 inch tab on the bottom piece. And then I'm going to place this right on top of that flap. So it's right on top of my little flap for my pull-out photo mat in the center. Going to do the same thing for the top. Going to first add my adhesive. And then place this on the center and burnish it down. So now I have my 2 pull-out photo mats. I need to add my closure piece. And here's where you need to decide if you want this to be the top one going down or the bottom one going up. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to adhere this to my bottom piece. Adding my adhesive to the insides of these two little tabs, and then placing my piece about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Now I'll place this back in here. And then when you go to place your top photo mat in, you just slide that right down in there to close up that little feature. So this is it for the front of page 4. And then we'll come in and add our decorative element to the inside. For the inside, we're going to cut a piece to 4.5 by 8.5. And on the 8.5 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the top. And then fold on that score line and burnish. Now I'm going to take my ruler and center this on the top. At 2.5 inches or 2.25 inches. And if you are measuring over from the side, 7/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to add my adhesive here to my tab. And then line up that score line with the top edge of my page. Bringing in the back of page 4, we're going to start with the inside first. So I have a piece that measures 2.5 by 8.25. Now on the 2.5 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch on the right. And I'm going to miter these corners. And then fold on this score line. I'm going to add this here to the left side of this page. So or the right side of the page. So I'm going to apply my adhesive, and then I will line up this score line with the edge of my back flap. Next, I have a piece that measures 4.5 by 3.5. Once I have decorative paper on here, I'm going to turn this into a pocket, and then I'm going to attach this here as a stationary photo mat. I might actually adhere this down too so it's a larger pocket, but for right now, I'm just going to take a piece of my washi tape and attach it here. And then I have a piece that's 5 inches by 7.5. That is going to be my photo mat for my pocket here. And I think I will attach tape to this too, just to make sure that it all stays in place. And now we'll flip over and we'll decorate the final side. This is the back of page 4. The first piece we need to cut is 6 inches by 8 1/4 inches. On the 6-inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side. Going to miter these corners and then fold on this score line. And now I'm going to take this piece and adhere it to the left side of the page. So I will line up that score line with that edge of the page, making sure that the top and the bottom are straight across the page, and then burnish. Next, I have 2 pieces that measure 4 inches by 5 inches. On one of the pieces, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch along the 4-inch side on the right-hand side. Then I'm going to turn it to the 5-inch side, and I'm going to score at 1/2 and 4.5. Then on the second piece, I'm going to score on the 4-inch side at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side of the piece. Then I'm going to turn this and score at 1/2 and 4.5 on the 5-inch side. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut through those crosses here, just to remove all of that paper from the corners. And then I'm going to miter the ends of these tabs. Then I'm going to fold on these score lines to create pockets. Now I'm going to take the pocket with the tab on the left and place it here at the top. With the tab on the right, I'm going to place it here. Whoop, I have them opposite. There we go. So the tab on the right is on the bottom. The tab on the left is on the top. And I'm going to create pockets. The next pieces are going to be the flaps that are actually going to close this as envelopes. So if you don't like this opposite look, you can turn your pages like this so that you have 2 pockets together, or you can turn it like this so you have 2 pockets together with those openings. But I'm going to do mine opposite. So I'm going to take my adhesive and place it on the 1/2 inch tabs on my first piece. And now these pieces are going to be, when they're on, about 1/4 inch smaller than the page. So I'm going to leave about 1/8 inch down here at the bottom. And then when this one's on, there's going to be about 1/8 inch at the top. So I'm just gonna eye that, and then I lined up this edge with the edge of that flap. And now I'm going to adhere this down. And then I have my opening over here. So I'm going to repeat that process with this one. Except for on this one, I'm going to place my score line on the edge of the page here, making sure that I have about 1/8 of an inch. And then there's just a tiny little gap in my pieces here. You can put them right up against each other if you want to, but I'm going to leave mine with just a little tiny gap. I do this because then when the other pieces close, they won't catch on anything if they're a little too close together. Sometimes they might get caught. So now I have my opening here and my opening here. Next, I'm going to take 2 pieces that are 4x4 squares. On one of them, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. This is going to be on the left-hand side. And on the other, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. On the right-hand side, I'm going to burnish these score lines. And then I'm going to use these as my closures for my pockets. So first I'm going to add my adhesive to this piece, and using the edge of the pocket, top and bottom, as my guide, I'm going to line up the top and the bottom and make sure that my score line is at the edge of my paper. Then I'm going to repeat, placing this one at the edge of my flap, and then using the top and the bottom edge of the pocket as a guide for making sure that it is straight on my page. So now I have my 2 flaps that open up and my 2 little pockets. Now I have 2 photo mats that measure 5 inches by 3.5 inches. So one is going to go here in this pocket. The other is going to go here in this pocket. Then I'm going to open my flap. Next, I have a piece that's 5.5 by 1 inch. This is going to be a belly band once the decorative paper is put down. Then I have a piece that measures 3.5 by 11. On the 11-inch side, I'm going to score this at 5.5. Then I'm going to fold on this score line and burnish. And this is going to create a booklet that's going to go here and hang inside my belly band. So for now, I'm just going to take a piece of tape and adhere it down to my page so that it doesn't move. And I'm going to leave this plain for photos. So now we have page 4 complete and finished, front, insides, and back. That's all for this tutorial. So all 4 of our pages are completely built. In the next video, we're going to move on to constructing the cover using chipboard and cardstock. And then after that, we'll get started on decorating. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to check out the description box below for all of those links to the products that are being used. They're all linked to the Scrap and Create website.